Okay, this is Unit 1, Week 1 of Nonprofit Management. And this video is going to be talking about the role of nonprofits and the leadership of nonprofits. We want to be able to describe the impact of the nonprofit in U.S. society and various leadership principles and practices for administering the nonprofit company. The reading for this week comes from Nonprofit Management 101. You need to read the foreword by Amy Dar, Chapter 1, Chapter 3. The syllabus shows what that reading assignment is. What is a nonprofit? Well, a nonprofit organization is an expression of private action for the public good. It's organized but not necessarily incorporated. Most people think that a nonprofit has to be a corporation, but as we'll see in week 3 on different types of organizations, it need not be legally incorporated. They're private, not governmental. This is the work of private citizens that want to band together to do something that's good. They operate under a non-distribution constraint. This is probably the most important concept of the nonprofit. We will see that it is okay for a nonprofit to make a profit. In fact, a good nonprofit should make a profit if it's going to be self-sustaining and be able to carry on the good work that it's doing over a long period of time. The difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit is that a nonprofit may not distribute any of the income made to any members or any person or any other company. All the income must stay within the nonprofit and be used for the nonprofit purposes. So don't get tricked on a question that says a nonprofit may not make a profit. It may make a profit. It is only that that profit must stay within the nonprofit organization itself. Nonprofits are self-governing. They can have boards, they can have members, different types of formations. They're voluntary, and they seek to provide a social benefit. The nonprofits in America today, that is a big section of the economy. 1.5 million organizations have nonprofit status by the IRS. Approximately 1 million of these are 501c3 public charities or public benefit organizations. We'll talk more about this in Chapter 3 or Week 3. The big three for public purposes: charitable, educational, and religious. They are tax exempt. In other words, the nonprofit does not pay a tax. It's not deferred. It's not paid to by shareholders or members. They are not taxed at all, except for UBIT, which we'll talk about later. But not only are the organizations tax exempt, but the donors that donate to a 501c3 charity may deduct their donations from their own income. So the majority of nonprofit funding comes from the organization's earned revenue. Fees for products and services such as tuition for universities, tickets, and membership fees generate the bulk of the income for most nonprofits. Government grants about 29-30%. You can figure about 1/3 of the income for nonprofits comes from the government grants and contracts. And private donations account for only about 12%. So you can see how the earned income is very important to nonprofits. And the economic impact on the economy is substantial. In 2006, nonprofits contributed $666 billion to the U.S. economy. Spending by nonprofits is equal to about 12% of GDP, and they employ about 13 million people, or 10% of the workforce. So the nonprofit sector is a significant economic impact on the country. The social impact is just as great. About 28% of American adults volunteer their time to be part of a nonprofit organization. About 61 million people volunteer over 13 billion hours to nonprofits. That is a tremendous amount of productivity. Volunteer hours are equivalent to over 7.5 million full-time employees with a value of over $215 billion. So nonprofits are significant in the economy. The history, when nonprofits started from the colonies to a nation, the new nation had very limited government resources. The government was busy on raising the army and taking care of the health and welfare needs of the society, and it left the societal needs of fraternal societies and political parties that undertook the building the social side of the country. As the country grew and prospered, it was wealthy merchants that funded universities, asylums, hospitals. They provided scholarships and money for the arts and intellectual societies. So it was the wealthy merchants that started off by being socially aware and socially conscious and taking part of their wealth and putting it back into the development of society. Religious and evangelical movements founded schools and universities and led many of the social action movements in those days, such as abolition. During and after the Civil War, voluntary groups played a key role in assisting governments such as the Red Cross. The government joined in. The government today has a major role in the nonprofit sector, but that didn't happen until after the Depression. It was during this time that the existing nonprofits just did not have the capacity to take care of all the needs that were arising due to the Depression. So for the first time, the government began to take care of certain social needs. They gave aid to the poor. They gave unemployment assistance with unemployment insurance, and Social Security was started in 1935, which is a social welfare program in the sense that it gives a retirement guarantee for a large segment of the population as it ages. Government and private foundations continue to grow, with the government becoming a much larger player over time. And it began to fund the creation and growth of nonprofit in the healthcare, the performing arts, other areas. So today, from 1998 to 2008, nonprofits increased 60%, while revenues to nonprofits increased 91%. There is a new concept that is developed called venture philanthropy. Donors began to consider themselves investors. They wanted to help nonprofits not only with money and with resources, but also with their knowledge. And so they became involved in the nonprofit organizations. They began stressing self-sustainability for the nonprofit organizations and emphasized the need to quantify and measure the accomplishments of nonprofit organizations. The days of just taking the money and not being accounted for them are over. More and more donors require a quantifiable justification that the money that they are giving to the nonprofit is, one, going for the purposes of the nonprofit, and two, are making a difference in what the segment of the society that the nonprofit is involved in. Socially responsible investing aligns the for-profit investment companies with the organization's mission by investing in causes that are in line with its goals. You saw a lot of this when South Africa was practicing apartheid. More and more socially responsible corporations stopped their dealing with South Africa in order to make a statement and to help that country to get rid of the problems that it had in its racial policies. The investment for socially responsible investing is the form of loans, grants, equity investments, and sometimes they loan executives to the companies to help manage them. So in Chapter 3, we move on and start talking about leadership in the nonprofit sector. It's actually more difficult to manage a nonprofit organization than a for-profit organization. I've been in both sectors, and it's the nonprofit that is the most challenging. On a for-profit, you can give bonuses, you can fire people, you can tell them what to do, and if they want to keep that job, then they will either change by moving to a different company, or they'll conform to the management requirements. That's not the case in not-for-profits, because many of the people involved in the not-for-profit are volunteers. They have to be encouraged, not dictated to. And you also have the board that is a key factor for the nonprofits as well. So it requires specific, unique leadership skills. Do lead consistently with passion when you're leading a nonprofit, just as you would a for-profit. Learn equally from outstanding and mediocre leaders. Learn from the mistakes of others. Don't duplicate their mistakes. Cultivate the art of active listening. You have to listen to your volunteers. These are principles that are applicable in small business, large business, and the nonprofit sector. Don't ever surprise your board. If there's a problem, it's coming. Talk to the board, get their help, let them know beforehand. The worst thing in the world is to walk into a board meeting and surprise them all with a crisis. And then don't confuse delegating with managing. Be a manager, be a leader of your organization. Leaders learn to be leaders. They're taught by watching others and they're made by their own success and failures. Mistakes are okay. I had a boss that used to say it's okay to make a mistake, just don't put a hole below the water line. A little bit of shrapnel above the superstructure is okay, but don't sink the ship. So don't be afraid to take chances and make mistakes. Remember, leadership makes a difference.